sweet, merciful buckets. Fair warning, I'm pretty sure the lighting is going to change a lot because of sun and clouds. I tried. I really tried.
Thank you for bringing us collectively to this moment.
If a studio wants their film to do well, marketing, as we all know, is super important. On average, a studio needs to hook an audience with a 2-minute trailer, set the tone, give us a taste of what is to come. Or if you're really in a big studio like Marvel or recently 20th Century Fox and just kind of hand deliver all the movie secrets, y'all need to gain some chill. But that's a whole other matter. Based solely on the trailer, Venom was marketed as, if I may, a superhero movie with a thriller twist. Not typical for a superhero movie, no matter how far back you look. It's a unique twist compared to the usual campy goodness, grounded in reality, or grimdark, to name a few. After seeing the film, however, while there are thriller elements in the movie, particularly in the first 45 minutes or so, from there, and I'm definitely not the only one to think so, Venom becomes more of a buddy cop pseudo rom-com, and the rom-com is subjective. Even in the behind-the-scenes, director, I hope I'm not saying your name incorrectly, Ruben Fleischer, said that they tried to blend both thriller and comedy, which sort of worked. I mean, the tones kind of conflicted for me, but hey, overall I still enjoyed the movie, so that's a positive. Considering Venom made a sweet $855 million worldwide, I think it's safe to say there's going to be a sequel. Sure, the film had an after-credits scene to set up a sequel, but that doesn't always mean that it's going to happen. For Venom, though, oh, it's definitely happening. What I personally hope to see in the next Venom movie is for the whole creative team to just fully embrace the rom-com vibe that they had going. If you didn't know, Tom Hardy plays both Eddie Brock and Venom, and Tom Hardy's chemistry with himself was a thing of beauty. So if we could just have that for the entire film rather than 60-ish% of the film, we're golden. But bringing this back around to marketing, it didn't take long after Venom was released in theaters for the audience to respond. So Venom threw away world domination, which seems to be his species' purpose in life after spending, a few days with Eddie? Wow, that's an intense love right there. And Sony, surprising probably everyone, myself included, listened to the audience and both hilariously and brilliantly embraced Eddie Brock and Venom as a budding love story and marketed the release of Venom on Blu-ray and DVD as exactly that. Months later, and I'm still not over it. Meanwhile, Tencent, who did the pre-theatrical release for Venom in China, clearly understood their audience ahead of time because, I kid you not, they marketed Venom as the perfect boyfriend. Tencent knows what's up. There be monster lovers out there. But hey, Sony eventually caught up over here in the States, and we were all much happier for it. Side note, I do want to state that the romantic aspect of Venom and Eddie is totally subjective. I believe the accumulative product that is the movie Venom allows for whatever interpretation and conclusion that you want. If you only see Venom and Eddie as buddies, awesome, that totally works. If you're like me, and millions more, and you see things in a more romantic light, that's cool too. There's no solid right or wrong answer here. So let's all just enjoy Venom and Eddie's partnership and not bite each other's heads off for it, for having differing opinions on said partnership. If anything, let's all unite and celebrate the brilliance that is Tom Hardy's performance.
Why would you do that?
Because it is a very sensible thing to do.
That man is a genius. Now, at this point in the video, you might be wondering, what does proper marketing have anything to do with the title of this video? A fair question, and honestly, there's no direct correlation. This intro was completely self-indulgent to put a spotlight on Sony's turnaround in their marketing, and I wanted to briefly celebrate that.
So, you're welcome.
Now keep in mind, what I have to say about Eddie is based Eddie Brock in the movie and not Eddie Brock from the comics, which I have not read yet. And to the diehard Venom comic fans out there who may not have approved of this movie, which is fair, let's all still be friends and just enjoy the clear romance between Eddie and Mr. Black Goo himself, Venom. And yes, I understand that Venom is the term for Eddie and the symbiote bonding to be Venom, but semantics? Also, please note, movie viewers, that it is indeed comic canon that Eddie and Venom are romantically involved. Like, there's no denying it. They've had goo babies together, for goodness sake. Love knows no bounds. Or species. What am I supposed to be talking about? Oh, Eddie Brock. Okay. I cannot express to you how happy I was when Eddie did not turn out to be yet another macho, hyper-masculine male lead in a superhero, or I suppose in this case an anti-hero role. And you know what? Not just an anti-hero role, but just a male lead in general. Credit where credit due. The writers, the director, the producers, everyone seemed to be on the same page in wanting to, if not subvert our expectations of who Eddie Brock is, then simply establish a guy that is, while a bit self-centered, is empathetic to others, learns up to own up to his mistakes, doesn't try to bring others down when he's down on his luck, continually shows vulnerability and isn't just stuck being tough all the time, and shows respect to others that deserve it. Yeah, Hollywood, take note. Thank you. At the start of the film, we learn that Eddie, while a talented journalist seeking out the truth to help those that often cannot help themselves, he's impulsive and sometimes reckless in the journey to uncover the truth. While we're not told exactly what happens in New York, both Anne and Eddie's boss, Jack, from the network essentially say, "Don't screw up again like you did in New York." Whatever Eddie did there, it was bad enough that he had to relocate across an entire country just to continue his career in journalism. And I think, maybe to be with Anne, where and how Eddie and Anne got together wasn't super clear to me. If you know the answer, just let me know in the comments down below. I think in Eddie's eyes, the end justifies the means. That his intentions to do good will justify how he accomplishes this. Except Eddie's methods for uncovering the truth of stories causes him to lose his job not once, but twice. This time, the second time, not only does Eddie lose his career, but he ruins his engagement and loses his apartment in one foul swoop. But keep in mind that it was Eddie's actions that cost him his relationship with Anne. He betrayed her trust, and she lost her job too in the fallout of everything. Those are some hard hits, but here's where things really start to get interesting. Jump ahead 6 months and we see Eddie in a studio apartment that has seen better and cleaner days. Seriously, Eddie, is your bathroom just permanently stained that way, or have you just been slacking on cleaning? I mean, given where his life is at that point, I would probably lack some motivation to. It's established that Eddie's having a rough go of things. But you know what else we see? Well, several things, so let me list them out for you. First, and this is a big one, in the 6 months since things went sideways, Eddie has respected Anne's decisions of breaking things off. He hasn't contacted her or gone to see her. He gave Anne her space. Way too often in other films and TV shows, when the male lead and the lead female break things off, but especially when the female breaks things off with the male lead, other movies have the male lead watch over the female to make sure that they're okay because he just misses his lady. In other words, the male lead stalks the female, but other movies do their darnest to make sure that it's not framed that way. But I see right through you. It's stalking. But with Eddie, again, it takes 6 months after Anne broke things off with him for Eddie to even tentatively try to reach out to her, hoping to make amends with her and possibly get back together with her. And folks, I love this scene. It may not be iconic like the lobster tank scene, which is just pure cinematic majesty, or really anything else dealing with Venom, but I honestly think it should be, and let me tell you why in bite-sized bullet point format. We meet Dan, Anne's new boyfriend, who we learn is just a good dude. Good dude Dan does not treat Eddie, whom he knows as an investigative journalist, but more importantly as Anne's ex, with an ounce of hostility, and vice versa. There's no gross male posturing, fighting over Anne, treating her like she's some trophy to be won. Anne has complete autonomy in this scene. Dan goes inside, knowing that this is Anne's business to deal with, and if she needed him, she would just call him back out. Again, this is the first time Eddie has reached out. Anne says, "Nah boy, bye," and Eddie goes, "Bye-bye." Side note, later in the movie, with a push from Venom, Eddie does properly and genuinely apologize to Anne for all the wrongs that he's done to her.
Oh, that's nice.
The last thing that I want to point out, while slightly longer, is in association with this fantastic scene. You want to know what does not happen in this movie? An unnecessary love triangle. Also, Eddie, though he's the male lead and the hero, he does not get the girl because, as so many other movies like to do, oh, turns out the new boyfriend is not good, and the ex-boyfriend was right for the girl all along. Nope, not with this film. Eddie screws up, Anne moves on, Dan is a swell guy, and Anne and Eddie can respectfully remain friends. Ugh, this is amazing! However, at the end of the movie, the legend, rest in peace Stan Lee, says to Eddie/Venom not to let Anne or her go, and Eddie says, "I won't." Whew, I gotta say, I really hope that the writers don't split Anne and Dan, because I think they're good for each other, and I would much rather see Eddie and Anne remain friends, and even Eddie and Dan to become friends. Please, Sony, dodge this cliche. Marvel did it with Ant-Man, with Scott remaining friends with his ex-wife and even becoming civil and friendly with her new husband. This is healthy and beautiful to witness. Sorry, I got a little off course there. Now, if you remember what I was talking about, that was a big moment. But I also want to point out some smaller moments of an Eddie that is having a rough time, but doesn't succumb to the male lead trope of, "I'm having a hard time, so my dickish comments and actions are justified." Instead, we see Eddie chatting with a homeless woman named Maria as a person, like she deserves. He even gives her $20, even though he's probably in a tight bind financially, but he still wants to help out where he can. Mrs. Chen bluntly tells Eddie,
"You're the life."
To which he responds,
And you look as beautiful as ever.
a hilarious moment when Venom and Eddie are already bonded. Eddie's neighbor is rudely playing music way too loud, and Eddie still politely asks him to turn it down, even though this seems to be a regular occurrence. And it's only with Venom's influence that the neighbor finally complies.
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, I'll just turn right down.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Thank you.
Now, these are just a few instances of Eddie, despite being in a crappy situation, not lashing out at others, nor does he once pull a self-pity card. He still behaves like a decent human being. Can you Adam and Eve it? A male lead that tries to right his wrongs without bringing down those around him. Other studios would have written scenes where Eddie does or said something rude, particularly after Eddie has fallen from grace, so to speak, and had the characters around Eddie let those comments and actions slide, so we as the audience would conclude, he's kind of a jerk, but he's still a good guy. This is all okay. No, Richard, it would not be okay. Eddie, thank the mighty Thor, was written as a guy acknowledging his mistakes, trying to atone for them, and just trying to be an all-around good person. Eddie is allowed to be vulnerable, to be scared, to be upset, to be compassionate, make mistakes, own up to his mistakes, and seek out help when he needs it. Aha! Seeking out help when he needs it. Let's chat a bit more about that, particularly when it comes to good guy Dr. Dan. Try saying that 5 times fast. Good guy Dr. Dan, good guy Dr. Dan, good guy Dr. Dan, good guy God. Hey, 3 times, that's actually not that bad. While Eddie is having an internal battle, literally, with Venom, he does not push away Dan's genuine willingness to help him out. In the hospital scene where Venom is separated from Eddie, and Eddie walks out like a jilted ex-lover because boy needs some space, here's an interesting thing that happens. Anne is essentially apologizing for helping Eddie out, girl, you don't need to, thinking Dan may be upset that Eddie and Anne are sort of in contact with each other, but no. Dan's only concern is the black goo alien in the MRI room and what that's all about and what the heck are they supposed to do about that? Once again, Dan shows no animosity towards Eddie when other studios and creative people would have written at least one, if not more, scenes of Dan holding some sort of grudge against Eddie for simply being the ex. And I will give you keen viewers a point in the fact that Dan is aware of Eddie's betrayal and Anne's trust, and yet right from the start, he gives Eddie a chance, much to Anne's surprise, and I think even Eddie's. It would make sense for Dan to initially be a little standoffish, but I am so glad that instead Dan is, what I think, an aid in helping Eddie and Anne reconcile. I wish this more uplifting dynamic would happen more often in movies and television. Something else I loved was that the movie did not point out and say, look, Eddie is doing nice things. He should be praised for that. They just let Eddie's actions be, because frankly, being kind to others should be normal. If a movie needs to continually emphasize a character's good actions, probably to compensate and try and balance out an otherwise crappy character that the movie is wanting to pass as a good character, well, then you failed. Yeah, Eddie makes some crappy decisions, but fundamentally, he's a good guy, genuinely trying to do the right thing in life and just wanting to help others. And before anyone jumps on my case about the casualties that happen, I think there were some casualties in the film, therefore putting a spotlight on how flawed Eddie is. 1, I never said that Eddie is perfect because my boy is not. 2, Eddie is an investigative journalist, and while he may have experienced some sticky situations, I get the sense that this was the first time that he's been shot at on more than one occasion and actively pursued like this. So, I mean, that's a rough situation to be thrown into and knowing how to handle that on the fly. And 3, the casualty issue I think is intrinsically linked with comics in general, whether it be from Marvel or DC. Heck, this is the exact issue that is the main focus of Captain America Civil War. There's a scene where Steve says this to Wanda, who is struggling with the unfortunate reality of civilian casualties.
We try to save as many people as we can. Sometimes it doesn't mean everybody. But if we can't find a way to live with that, next time, maybe nobody gets saved.
So, give Eddie a chance before you completely write him off. As ridiculous as this may sound, Eddie is one of the most human and relatable male lead characters in not just a blockbuster film, but a movie. Eddie is a mess, but he's a vulnerable and relatable mess, and I genuinely hope that writers and producers and directors understand why people like me connected with Eddie. I mean, I just made an entire video on why I love that Eddie is not the standard tough hero. Eddie was allowed to be gentle and kind of a weird dude, but not be mocked for it. He was complex yet understandable, and I could empathize with him. So please, Hollywood, learn from the sweaty mess that is Eddie Brock just trying to do his best. Oh, and before I forget, speaking of Eddie being a sweaty mess, I really appreciated that there was no glow-up moment once Eddie was connected with these abilities, aka bonded with Venom. He remained looking like a guy that needed just all the sleep in the world and just appreciates comfort over style. That's a trope that I was really happy to see not play out. Before I sign off, just one more thing, Hollywood. We, as the collector viewers, would like to see more monster/creature love stories. If you need any advice, I'm sure Guillermo del Toro would be happy to help. Yeah, that was that was a lot. that I had to say, and it definitely took a while for me to pin down everything that I wanted to say. Some of it was repeated a little bit, but you know, emphasis and all of that. Let me know if you agree with any of these points that I did make. Do you think there was anything that I missed? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's have a friendly chat about this. Yeah, that's it. So, wow. Thank you all so much for watching, especially if you made it to the very end, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Oh, the lighting. Oh, I need to look at the lens, the camera, you guys. Yep, everything is recording. Good. Eddie and Venom are. Venom. I don't know. Reminds me of the yum 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 cats or something. What? I don't know. Oh my goodness gracious. I can't get this one out, folks. Oh, balls, this is about to end. Man, I talk a lot in this one. What else is new? Video recording, voice recording, yay.